Design Review Panel. This meeting is now called to order, and I am the chair of the panel, Joseph Yusufero. We'll start with a roll call to account for the members of the panel present on the call this evening. When you hear your name, please say aye. Ms. Sauce?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens? Mr. Stevens, are you out there? Can you say aye? Well, let's jump. I just saw Mr. Sala join. Mr. Sala, can you hear us? If you're out there, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And let's go back to Mr. Stevens. If you can hear us, Mr. Stevens, please say aye. I heard him earlier, so we're going to proceed. We have quorum, and when his microphone works, we'll jump back to him. But we do have quorum, so thank you. So we'll do a review of today's agenda at this point. Marta, are there any changes to the tentative agenda as it was published?
No changes, Joe. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Marta. At this point, we'll go ahead and review the minutes from the September 11th, 2024 DRP meeting. In an email on September 20th, 2024, my fellow panel members received draft minutes from the September 11th, 2024 DRP meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the draft minutes? I'm hearing no comments, so I would assume that everyone had an opportunity to review the draft minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of the September 11th, 2024 DRP meeting? Again, hearing no comments or corrections. So at this point, who would like to make a motion to accept the minutes as circulated?
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Thank you. Great. Thank you, Ms. Sauce. So a motion is on the table to accept the minutes.
I second that motion.
Second by Mr. Sala. Thank you very much. All in favor, if you could come off of mute and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Speak now. So the motion carries. Thank you very much. So at this point, I'm obligated to read an opening statement as it relates to the DRP. So if everyone could mute their microphones, allow me a few minutes to read my statement, and then we'll jump into the meat of the agenda. So here goes. Title 4, Subtitle 2, Part 1, Sections 32.4, 203, and 204 establish the Design Review Panel, and we use the acronym DRP. The DRP was established to encourage design excellence and shall act in a consulting and advisory capacity to the agencies involved in the process for reviewing development plans. The objectives for the DRP's assessment include spatial, visual, and functional relationship to the topographical characteristics, the natural and built features of the site, as well as the surrounding features of the site, visual and functional integration of streetscapes, pedestrian pathways, playgrounds, recreational amenities, and parks. Streets and sidewalks are laid out in a safe and convenient manner, and parking is a positive design element. Building, parking garages, and other structures are spatially and visually integrated and suitable to their surroundings in proportion, massing, and type of materials and colors, signage and other elements of urban design. And plant materials are selected and cited to define the site, provide a theme, frame of view, enhance architecture and street character, improve microclimate, provide transition between dissimilar uses, screen objectionable views and uses, and reduce noise levels and glare. In carrying out its duties, the DRP utilizes the guidelines, plans, and architectural principles in the Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies and/or Master Plan, as well as other guidelines and regulations adopted into law. Certain areas of the county were designated by the County Council to require review by the DRP. The panel will provide a technical review of the proposed project. Issues relative to zoning, setback relief, environmental and stormwater management and traffic regulations do not fall under the purview of the DRP and are regulated through the appropriate agencies responsible for those aspects of the development plan review process. The panel consists of 9 members. All are professionals with practical knowledge in the matters of design. For purposes of making recommendations on a particular project, 3 members shall constitute a quorum. The attendance and comments of each member shall be recorded in the minutes, which shall be an open record and available, along with all documents submitted to the panel for inspection and copying by the public. There will be an opportunity for the community to offer comments and suggestions at the conclusion of the applicant's presentation. These comments will also be included in the written record of the meeting. When a speaker is called to speak, please keep your comments focused on design perspectives within your allotted 2 minutes of time. And if you're speaking on behalf of a community group, you will get 5 minutes of time. At the conclusion of the meeting, the Department of Planning will sum up the recommendations of the panel before a motion for a vote is suggested. Recent legislation has changed the panel's recommendations to be advisory on the hearing officer and the various county agencies, unless the hearing officer or agencies find the panel's actions constitute an abuse of its discretion or are unsupported by the documentation and evidence presented. Disposition of the plan will be determined as either approved, approved with conditions, or additional review with a second meeting being required. So thank you for allowing me to read the opening statement. We'll go ahead and review the agenda for this evening. We have 2 projects. The first project is 200 Towsontown Boulevard in the Towson DT District Commercial Signage Review. And the second project is 121 Back River Neck Road in the Essex Commercial Review. So we'll go ahead and proceed to item number 1, 200 Towsontown Boulevard. If the presenter would go ahead and introduce yourself, the floor is yours, and please keep your presentation to approximately 10 minutes. Thank you. So if the presenter for the first project would come off of mute, Marta would be controlling the visuals. So it's your turn at this point.
And Joe, David, who's presenting this project, he was here. Oh, I see he's back. David, can you hear us? David? We were checking with him prior to the 6 p.m. opening of the meeting, and he had no problems to hear us and to see the screen, but for some reason, I'm not sure he can hear us now. David, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you're speaking. I see you are on the list of the panelists, but we can't hear you.
No.
David?
He's talking, but there's no sound. He can hear us.
You can hear me.
This is Mr.
He can
Steven.
hear you.
David, maybe try without your headphones like you did before. Yes, we
Hear you
can
now.
hear you now. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, so I don't know what happened. I got kicked off earlier and I was able to get back on. My apologies, but everyone hears me okay?
David, we can hear you loud and clear. Yep.
Fantastic. Okay, so let me see the screen. So we are proposing on behalf of Haven to install what's called a channel letter sign, an illuminated sign, as shown. Martha, if you wouldn't mind scrolling to the next page, I think it's a little clearer. There we go. So this is an internally illuminated channel letter. As you can see, we propose to place it above the 5th story towards the south west corner. You can see in the lower left area the view of how it would look at night. During the day it looks black, and at night you can see the internal white illumination. And it's not a very bright white because the way we have that day-night effect, black during the day and white at night, is by overlaying the face with what's called a black perforated vinyl. So when it's actually lit, the perforations, the small holes allow the light through, but it dulls it slightly, so it's not a very bright white, but it's visible at night, as you can tell in the rendering. Mark, if you can go down one more page.
Excuse me, David, if you could please introduce yourself and the address of the building.
Oh, certainly. My name is David Dresen. I work with Strategic Factory. We're a sign company proposing the sign for Haven, which is a co-working office space that is going to be leasing the entire 5th floor at 200 Towson Boulevard. And they're requesting to identify their location to their members and visitors a sign on the building. There is currently no other signage on this building other than the address number 200, which you can kind of see in the elevation photo, which is on the first level above the entrance area. So yeah, that's thank you for allowing us to present this. We did a little sort of overview to get a sense of how the sign can be seen. And due to the orientation of the building and the fact that it faces south and there's a large tree line, there's really no other adjacent properties. There's only really 2 locations where the sign can be seen. And that's heading north on Bosley Avenue. And at that point, it's actually only until you're right at the intersection where you can see, if you look down in the photo box that's labeled B with the letter B, you can see that's a photo. The orientation of the yellow B on the bird's eye sort of map view is where the photo was taken from. And that's the earliest that the sign is visible. And then the other area is heading east on Towson Boulevard, about 600 feet, where you see on the map the A with the arrow direction, and then the photo up in the upper left corner labeled A. That's with the arrow pointing to the area where the sign is. So these are really the only 2 places that the sign can be seen from any vehicular traffic. And as far as anywhere else, due to the tree line and the fact that all the other buildings, property developments is behind the building, it really can't be seen by any other property other than the upper levels of the Towson University Residence Tower, as you can see in the photo labeled number 2, and the upper levels of the residences at 10 West Burke labeled in 3. But at that level, all the signs of Towson could pretty much be seen. So yeah, based on all of these considerations and factors, we're requesting that this sign be permitted. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, David. Does this conclude your presentation?
Yes, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, we'll get to the panel members in a second, but there's a couple things we'll have to do before that.
Okay.
So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So at this time, the floor will be open for public input or feedback from the community. And as a reminder, if you're representing a community group, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. Those who do not represent a community group will have 2 minutes to speak. So Marta, Brett, has anyone signed up from the community to speak?
No, I don't think so, Joe. I don't have anyone here. And Brett, do you have anyone on your end?
No, no one on my end.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this time, the public comment period will be officially closed. So at this point, because this is a commercial project, there will be a Department of Planning staff report. So Marta, if you could pull the staff report up and go ahead and read the staff report.
You, Joe. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So this staff report is prepared by based on the Baltimore County zoning regulations and bill number 49-16 downtown Towson overlay district and bill number 10-/19 under section 259.16 subsection A.5.b and 259.16.A.6.h. So I will read staff recommendations. Currently, there is one existing sign over the building entrance vestibule, which displays the street address number reading 200. The Heaven Space office occupies the entire 5th floor of the building. The proposed new sign is in scale and is not overwhelming and does not dominate the mass of the building. The proposed signage is consistent with the character of the area and also enhances the visual interest in the area. The proposed sign is appropriate for the setting. Staff recommends approval of the proposed signage, subject to any recommendation by the design review panel. This concludes the staff report.
Great. Thank you very much, Marta. At this point, we'll go ahead and open the discussion up to the panel members. So get my list here. So we'll go to Mr. Sala first for any comments.
Good evening, everybody. So I've been looking at the presentation, and also I know the corner very well there. Frequently drive on that corner, and I agree with the recommendations of the staff members. I don't see an issue with proceeding with this sign as designed. I think the fact that it has limited visibility is good. It meets its intention, which is identifying the users of that particular floor. Just kind of, I'm actually on Google Maps right now, so I don't have any comments. I think it's
Okay, great, Mr. Sala, appreciate that.
Okay.
Let's go to Ms. Sauce.
Yes, thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
Very well done. I concur with the staff report and my fellow panelists.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Stevens, I see your name, but you didn't announce yourself earlier. If you can hear us,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you now. So I'm going to
Excellent.
take this as you said "I" earlier, and you're a panel member. So go ahead. Do you have any comments?
I did say I'm having difficulties with the sound and the visual, but anyway, I have listened to the presentation and I find the location and the scale and the size of the signage to be very appropriate.
Great.
So I agree with the panelists and the staff report.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to be the final panel member, and I also believe that it's appropriately scaled, and I have no further comments. So this would conclude the discussion from the panel members. At this point, would somebody like to make a motion for the project? And a reminder that there are 3 options. We can approve it, can approve it with conditions, or additional review with a second meeting being required. So there are the three options.
I'd like to submit a motion to approve it as designed.
Thank you, Mr. Salas. So there's a motion on the floor to approve the project as designed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stevens, thank you very much. As a second, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries to approve this submitted. Congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Okay, we will proceed to item number 2, which again is 121 Back River Neck Road in the Essex Commercial Review area. If the presenter would please introduce yourself, and the floor is yours. Again, try to keep the presentation to in the 10 to 15 minute range.
Yeah, my name is Chris Burns. I'm with Richardson Engineering, and I'm here to present the daycare at 121 Back River Neck Road. The name of it is going to be Gigglebox Learn and Play. And like I said, it's a daycare. It will have a parking lot and a play area outside of it that's going to be fenced in. And yeah, we believe this will fits in with the surroundings. Yeah, so what you see there is the rendering of the building. It will be I think it's an off-white on the upper part. Pull this up. Yeah, so it'll be a light gray color on the upper part with gray banding on the top, and then gray banding along the bottom. The finish will be stucco. There will be, Marta, if you can scroll down to page 23 of the PDF. Three signs on the building and one monument sign that is out in front. The monument sign will be a double-sided light box with LED illumination, a LED text image video type LED screen in the middle, and then on the bottom it will be a red aluminum skirting with the web address of the daycare. If you want to scroll up to page 21, the plan view. So like I said, it will be a daycare. These will be modular buildings. There will be a play area right outside of the building on the opposite side of Back River Neck Road. There will be a parking lot with 14 spaces that enters and exits off of Howard Avenue. 2 microbial retention facilities to handle stormwater management, and a white vinyl fence that encloses the play area. The existing use of the property was a residential single-family home that is been raised, so it's essentially vacant at the moment. If you want to scroll down to page 24 for the landscaping plan, There is trees and shrubs proposed to be planted on site. And yeah, so yeah, we ask that this this project be permitted.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Burns. Does this conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So at this point, similar to the last project, we'll go ahead and open the floor for any kind of public input or feedback from the community. Again, if you're representing a community group, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. Those who do not represent a community group, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. Marta or Brett, has anyone signed up from the community to speak?
I don't think so.
No, no one signed up, Joe.
Okay. So what we'll do at this point is we'll go ahead and close the public comment period. And at this point, again, because this is a commercial project, there will be a staff report from the Department of Planning. So, Marta, would you please pull up the staff report and read the highlights?
Thank you, Joe. So this staff report was prepared by planning in conformance with the following. Number 1, comprehensive manual development policies. Number 2, Baltimore County Master Plan 2030. Number 3, Baltimore County Landscape Manual, and also based on the Eastern Baltimore County Pedestrian and Bicycle Access Plan, Eastern Baltimore County Revitalization Study, Community Conservation Plan for Essex Middle River Area, and Essex Design Guidelines. So I'll start with site design. Staff recommends approval of the site design. Form and image, staff recommends approval. Open space and landscape design, staff recommends approval, subject to following comment. Clarify if there are any existing trees and vegetation on the site. If so, label and identify on the landscape plan and label all the proposed trees and vegetation to be removed. Streets, parking, and circulation, staff recommends approval. Signage and lighting, staff recommends approval, subject to the following comments. Provide more details for the proposed monument sign, including all dimensions, materials, and color of the main structure, and lighting details, if any, proposed. And architectural design, staff recommends approval of the architectural design. This concludes planning staff report. Thank you, Joe.
Great. Thank you very much, Marta. So at this point, we'll go ahead and move to my fellow panel members and any comments that they may have. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and go in opposite order from last time. Mr. Stevens, it would be your turn first.
Okay. And just looking over the site plan and the building plans and elevations, and starting with sheet 1 of 4, which is the site plan. Can we talk about that? Can we shift to that? Is that okay? I'm just looking at the parking area and where the dumpster enclosure is, and being adjacent to that parking stall, I don't see how that parking stall can really function well, being where it is. It's you know, if there's a vehicle that's parked in that stall, there is going to be a conflict with how you transfer trash in and out of that dumpster, and and open the doors of that dumpster. So there needs to be some type of remodification of that particular area to really accommodate parking. That's one. Other than that, it's the parking area seems appropriate to me. But if we go to the actual building, I mean, I understand the modular concept, but this really needs to work. I looked at the exterior elevations, and the exterior elevations are telling me that on the left and the right elevation, on the right elevation, you have a double door entry into that building, but it's not indicated on the actual plan. And the same with the left elevation, you have a single door centered on that building that's not even indicated on the plan. So I don't understand how one is going to exit from the buildings on the left and right. It's indicated on the exterior elevations, but it's not indicated on the floor plan, which is I guess it's 2 of 5. That's what's indicated on my sheet, which actually shows the modular units of the floor plan. Let's go to that sheet. I think that's the last sheet, Marta. No, yeah. Let's keep going. Right there, yeah. Right there, right there. Yeah. I mean, if you indicate on the right and left on the long sides of the building, on one side you indicate a single door exit, but there's no single door exit. And on the opposite side, there is a double door that's from a classroom, but it's not centered on that building. And I'm assuming that's just another exit from the building. So I mean, if you can explain that to me if you want to.
Yeah, sure. The floor plan is just not up to date. What you see on the site plan is where the door locations and the double door or single door is where they're going to be. The renderings that we have were only of the 2 sides that showed the double doors, the sides that would present to the streets. So that's the discrepancy there.
Yeah, I just need it to really be crystal clear. I mean, you have a single door exit on the left side, and if in order for that to really happen, there's going to have to be some redesign and reshuffling of the floor plan of these units. So it needs to be further investigated to some degree. That's all. And I mean that was my major comment about this. That how that the dumpster interferes with the parking stall, and how there will be an egress from the building on either side of the left and right, which outside of that, if we actually go back to, I guess one last comment for me is the actual renderings of the front and the rear. Yeah, right there. We can blow that one up. Typically the entry into a building is inviting, and it just seems like the planter walls on either side should come down a little bit. So you're not really hiding the entry. That's all. So if we could really bring those planters down and to really make that more of an inviting entry instead of trying to hide it, it would be more accommodating. That's my comment. So those really are all my comments. And Joe.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stevens. I think what I'd like to do is allow Mr. Mr. Burns to go back and try to address the dumpster comments. So Marta, if you could go to the site plan and allow the applicant just to go ahead and address that. And perhaps it was an item that was overlooked. I do, Mr. Stevens, see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mr. Burns, would you like to address the dumpster comment? I think the comment was there would be some kind of conflict with the doors of the dumpster and accessing the dumpster if there's a car park there.
Yeah, I understand the concern. I can see why he would raise that. I believe the client will be scheduling the dumpster pickup when it's necessary. I don't know if they are going to be just having this on a weekly schedule like you would have, say, for a larger facility.
Understood. Thank you. I did know, just for Mr. Stevens' benefit too, that I did look at the parking tabulation, and although it's not within our purview, there are extra above and beyond spaces provided on the site. So if the applicant decided to somehow remove a space, it wouldn't put them into any kind of zoning issue. So I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so let's proceed forward. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. To Ms. Sauce, who's next?
Yes, good evening. Thank you for the presentation. I concur with Mr. Stevens on the entries should be inviting. I would also think that would be a CPTED issue, crime prevention through environmental design, and I think a better design or lowering them would be helpful. I have a question or just clarification. If you're looking at the site design plan versus the landscape plan, there's different lighting configuration called out for the parking lot. So just wondering if one plan is newer than the other. It seems like there's 3 lights, I think, in the site plan, and I see 1 in the landscape plan. And that light back there on that site plan is really close to the adjacent property line. So just clarification, or did somebody run photometrics on this to figure out how many lights were required?
Yeah, we have a lighting engineer working on it. The lights that you see on the site plan, those are the most current locations. We were kind of running down to the wire to get it submitted. Our landscape architect is an external company that does it, and they just didn't get a time to update their base plan to reflect that.
Okay. Sounds good. I also have concerns with the dumpster, but that's already been discussed, so I just would like to second that. Other than that, is there any planting around the microbio areas, or can that be added in? I think that would really help the design and keep the kids from running into there. And then I read in the staff report that they would like all the landscape material labeled, and I concur with that. Little hard to give feedback on the landscape, not knowing what trees and shrubs are specified. That's all I have.
Yeah, so there is going to be some shrubs between the microbial retention and the parking lot. Since receiving the staff report comments, I have sent that to our landscape architect, and I know they have added some shrubbery because I believe the terminology was they wanted enhanced landscaping, but that was not done in time for this. Well, we didn't have the staff report for that prior to the submittal. See if I can find that on my.
So to my fellow panel members, that could be, if we decide to make a motion to approve it, it could be approved with a condition, right? To provide the plant acceptable plant material. Sorry, Mr. Burns, were you trying to say something?
No, I was just pulling up the most current plan that they had sent us to just see if, if they had anything. Currently, they do not have shrubbery around the fire retentions other than what I mentioned before.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Sauce, do you have any other comments, or does this conclude your comments?
Completes my comments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So let's go to Mr. Sala next.
Thanks for putting this together. I have a lot of concerns around modular construction. I'm actually right now working on 3 childcare facilities that are actually utilizing modular construction. And I know some of the limitations, but also some of the advantages of using this type of construction. So I think I'd like to look at the sort of maybe confused a little bit around the renderings that you provided. And so the entry to the facility for when kids are dropped off is at the side of the building, correct? With a ramp system to get you up to that the floor of the actual module.
There is a ramp for disabled access, and there is also stairs.
So how do you? So the rendering that you showed isn't really the main entrance. It's the exit out to the play area to the north.
The upper rendering, the architect just put a entry with those taller walls with the planting on top that's been commented on.
So
that's just the architect putting something in there.
Understand. Okay. Well, that's the. I mean, this is honestly, I have to say this. This is my time is valuable, right? If I'm gonna sit on this call, and I think my fellow panelists would agree that if we're gonna be shown something, it has to be up to date. It has to be thought of because I'm spending time looking at it and advising on the design. If it's not accurate, then what am I commenting on? My apologies again for the panel if I'm saying this, but it's not. I need to be able to comment on something that's an actual going to be built. I'm going to put that on record. So this exit here or entry, where is that? Is that the side of the building or the rear of the building? The one at the top, front and rear of the building. So is that how? That's the kid exiting out. The kids exiting out into the play area, correct?
The top rendering, we are calling the front the side that faces Howard.
That's the main entrance. That's not the main entrance into the building.
The side off of Howard is the main entrance into the building. The upper rendering that says front and rear.
Let me go back to Google Maps here so that I'm on the same page with you.
So Mr. Sal, I had this. I'll just jump in and try to clarify that. I believe the top rendering was the side on Howard that has the current ramp system.
But it's okay. Well, that's part of my confusion. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, this is not how you enter the building. This is all made up.
They're not clearly indicating the ramp system.
No. So the comment about lowering the walls is not accurate because the walls are not really there. That's not what they're intending to build. So if you, I mean, that's just my pet peeve around it. I would definitely want to see an updated renderings reflecting what you're actually going to build. This is a very prominent corner. Obviously, there's a lot of housing around this particular site, even though the scale of the building is appropriate. And I understand the direction to go modular. It seems that it's a bit trendy right now. A lot of developers and people are doing them. I think maybe I would like to hear from you the strategy around the exterior material. Is that a material that's going to be applied on site after the modules are set in place, or that are the material applied in the factory with the modules and they're connected together? And I don't understand what the intent is to connect those modules together aesthetically, because right now that's not clear on the documents. That would be my first question. The second question I have is, I know this is a daycare facility. I'm working on, again, I'm going to repeat that, 3 daycare facilities, and they're all modular construction. One of the key elements of a daycare, because these kids spend 8-10 hours in that classroom in the winter, let's say, if there's an opportunity to take them outside, they do spend a good deal of time outside. But the daycare is their home away from home. We're providing an environment for them to be able to live and learn and build relationships with their friends. A single window into each classroom is not enough light to bring in to create that environment for children. I know that there's a limitation sometimes, an untrue limitation on modular construction, that you cannot put a lot of windows in it. But I can assure you that you could. I want to understand your strategy about the placement of the windows and why that size in particular was applied. Now, the materiality is another question. I don't understand what the strategy is for the material itself. Is that intended to pick up materials from adjacent buildings around the site? There isn't a lot of great examples if you look at my street. But if you can speak to those 2 points for me for now, I would appreciate that.
Regarding the I guess how they will be put together, or if the stucco will be finished on site. Honestly, I can't speak to that because I'm not involved in that level of the construction stage. Regarding the finish, the appearance with relation to the surrounding areas, there isn't really a standard around. There's a building across the street with a I believe it's a ice cream place, has a blue awning. The building right next door is brick. The building directly across from Howard is currently under construction. There's several other buildings down the street. I believe one of them is just gray. So I think the idea was to kind of keep these colors and finish neutral as best as possible. Regarding the lighting, if that's a building code concern or something that needs to be addressed, we can certainly bring that to the architect's attention to rectify that. The floor plan shows 2 windows in every room, with the exception of the front room on the upper left corner, but I believe that is just an error on the architect's floor plan that they were not shown.
Is each module, or is each room 2 modules, or is each
room is part of one modular building? So they would, if you would, the old terminology, a double wide versus a so I guess I apologize. Each room is comprised of 2 modules.
2 modules.
Right, making it.
Okay. And how many children per classroom do you know?
As I understand it, is going to be 75 children in total.
And what age groups are they thinking?
I would have to check with the client on that, if I'm honest with you. I do not know those specifics. I would imagine it's going to be anything from infant up till kindergarten age, or pre-kindergarten, preschool age.
Okay. I know a lot of times our comments, obviously I understand the economics of development, and obviously providing that service for the community is an important part of what you all are doing. And that's not my intent to prevent that or hinder that in any shape or form. As an architect, I do care about the user of the building. That's where my comment was generated in terms of the number of windows for each of these classrooms. If there's a possibility to add 1 window, maybe that could be part of our recommendations at the end of the session, if that's okay with the group. Joe, is that okay with with you, I can conclude my comments after this. But I have a couple recommendations that I can move forward with.
Yeah, I think that sounds fine, and we can make whatever appropriate motion we'd like. But again, we should keep our comments to the purview that we have, right? Which is architecture, which is site layout, landscaping, and the layout inside the building, the number of classrooms, that's not within our
I
purview,
understand.
right? So
Okay.
we
No,
just
I
need
was
to,
just I was trying to understand the density within the classroom that has an impact, on the number of windows that you might want to add to a building.
yeah, understood. Okay.
Okay.
Do you have any further comments, or
No, that's it.
that
That's it.
Okay, great. So I'll wrap up the comments here, and Marta, if you could go to the site plan. That's the existing conditions plan. If you could scroll down a couple from that. That's it right there. Yes. So I think my comments have to do with the elevations and the renderings that are not updated per the site configuration. So my first comment was that there's a main door on the back River Neck Road side that I now understand that is not the front door. But I was hoping for some kind of sidewalk between the steps down from the building out to the front sidewalk. So it appears that the sign is kind of in that area that I'd like to have a sidewalk. So, Mr. Burns, you might tell me that, well, that's not any kind of public entry, but I just didn't understand that from the plans. Is that an accurate statement, or would it be appropriate to have a sidewalk from the building to the main sidewalk?
That exit, I believe, is just to serve mainly as an emergency exit. I think they would prefer not to have people from the street walking up to the door in terms of having the sidewalk go right out the back river neck. The trying to snake a sidewalk around the microbio, it would be possible, but it wouldn't get use.
Okay. I do understand that in that if it's not the front door and being the use that it is with children, I do understand that you don't want to create an inviting non-entrance. So I get that. So thank you. One comment as it relates to the siting of the building. I do believe, Mr. Burns, that you've cited the building appropriately and consistently with the other buildings on the frontage. When you look at the two adjacent auto repair tire buildings, they're approximately 40 feet off the road. And you put this building also in line with that. So I did want to make a comment that I think the building is appropriately cited and consistent with the block.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the average between the two adjacent buildings.
Right. So at this point, that concludes my comments. So what I'd like to do is try to summarize the feedback that I heard thus far from my fellow panel members. So number one, I heard that there's a conflict with the dumpster and the parking space. Number two, I heard that the renderings from Mr. Stevens, there were walls on the entrance, but from further investigation and understanding, those walls are actually not even appropriate, and they're not per the site constraints. So that really kind of goes away. I heard that the main entrance is on the Howard Street, which is where the ramp system is, that is inconsistent with what the renderings and elevations show. And then I heard some architectural comments from Mr. Sala in terms of windows, layout, et cetera. So I'd like to pause there and just remind my fellow panel members that, you know, there's three options here again. That we can approve it as it's submitted. We can approve it with certain conditions, and let's remember that the Department of Planning staff report has some comments in it. Or we can say additional review and modifications are needed with a second meeting. And again, the motion should be very specific in the comments and conditions that the panel would make. And after the motion is made, I'll go ahead and turn to the Department of Planning to make sure that the motion is clear to allow the applicant to proceed. So with that, who would like to make a motion?
Joe, I don't want to get the language wrong. Would you mind? And I appreciate it. Would you mind reviewing those three options for me one more time so that I can get the language right?
Sure.
I would appreciate that.
So we can approve the project
Okay.
as submitted. We can approve the project with conditions, and we can make a motion that an additional review is required with a second public design review panel meeting being required.
Joe, may I interrupt to clarify? The second option, approved with conditions, would mean that the project's almost quite good enough to pass through, but some tweaks need to be made, and the submission can be sent to staff, and we can follow up administratively with the DRP chair.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's exactly what I meant to say. So thank you for clarifying.
Staying busy?
I'd like to, I think there's just not enough consistent information for us to make even a conditional approval, in my opinion. I'd like to set up or propose a motion to come back for an additional review with updated graphics that are consistent so that we can actually make an informed decision on where the entrances are, what that looks like aesthetically, maybe update those renderings so that they are consistent with what actually is going to be built. If I can proceed with that, I'd like to propose that as my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Salas. So let me pause there and have a quick discussion with the panel members. So what Mr. Salas is proposing is a modifications to the submission and a re-presentation to the panel. with all the inconsistencies with site plan renderings and elevations, I would also agree, Mr. Sala, that that makes sense, at least to me. So I do believe we have to get the motion defined enough to have the applicant know what to do. So if you could try to refine that
Sure.
motion just a
I mean,
little bit, and then we'll confirm with the Department of Planning.
again, the motion would be to go about and update the graphics so they are consistent, meaning that they reflect the actual built condition for the daycare center in the future. Meaning that the renderings are reflecting what the plans look like, where the main entrance are, if it was depicted in those renderings. And I would also recommend that they take into account some of the other comments that were presented by the panel regarding any comments around landscaping, etc. And we can go back through the panel and kind of work on defining what those are. I wouldn't speak for the other panelists. The only other thing that I would ask is a question to see if the modular construction would allow an additional window for those classrooms to get additional daylighting for those classrooms for the children, just creating a better environment. If that's under my preview to request, Joe, let me know if that is something we can add to the motion.
I would also add one piece to this that I'd also encourage you to condition the decision upon the staff report, because Department of Planning staff report, because within the staff report there is a comment as it relates to the landscape plan to define the existing landscape and proposed landscape, and I think that comment would apply to Ms. Sauce's concerns as well. I'd like to ask Jennifer one question. Jennifer, from an architectural standpoint, I think we have the ability to condition certain things like windows in the motion. But could somebody mute their phone? There's a lot of background noise. Thank you. In order to gain more light within the building, are we in a position to make that motion? I'm a little confused there because I know what our purview is and it's kind of related to the inside.
Well, the windows are exterior, so if you want to make modifications to the design of the exterior building, you're allowed to do so.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Mr. Sala, do you want to try one more time? And what I'm hearing is make all the graphics consistent with one another.
Yes.
I'd like, the conditioned upon the staff report, and then go ahead and talk about a window, and I think that'll do it.
Well, and also the exits. Especially the exits that go to the outdoor play area, where they're going to have to really modify the plan to accommodate those exits on the long sides of the building. That's all.
Yeah, I think Mr. Sala's comment about making the graphics consistent, I think that would apply.
Okay.
Yep. So,
All right, let's try this one more time. And
all
I
right,
think
I'm going to try my best. Be patient with me, please. So
Sure.
I'm going to propose a motion for an additional review or a second review with the design review panel. The applicant needs to come back to the panel with updated graphics that are consistent with the proposed plan and site plan for the project. In addition to that, they will need to address some of the comments from the staff members regarding existing and new landscape and clarify that on the documents. I would also like to add a request to increase the number of windows by adding one or two windows per classroom, if possible, by the modular construction company. Does that
okay. That's
clarify?
clear to me. I'm
Okay.
gonna ask the Department of Planning, Jennifer, Marta, Brett. Sean? Is that clear to you?
Yeah, I got it. We're good, Joe.
Okay, great.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
So there's a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Speak up now. Hearing none. So the motion carries with the applicant to submit and re-present as a second meeting before the design review panel for approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're almost done, and so we're at the end of the meeting. So do I have a motion to adjourn the board meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Ms. Sauce. Second,
Second.
Second.
Mr. Stevens. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It sounds like it's a unanimous decision to close the meeting. Thank you very much, and hope everyone has a good evening.
You also.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Bye.
Have a good night.
You also.